So lastly, too, just to add, you said the LGBTQ plus. Can you just please, can you say what the plus is?
I think, I don't know precisely what term they're going to use, but the plus is definitely, I think like pedophilic or pedo something. I forget precisely what term they're using now. They change it. But these are, I remember, minor attracted persons. That's what they call them. They call them minor attracted persons. And the hero of their movement, Harvey Milk, he's like the LGBTQ Martin Luther King. If you look at his history, he was a minor attracted person. He was a grown man, and he was dealing with a 16-year-old boy. And it's very common in their culture. They call it pederasty, which is to say older males and younger boys. They even have whole websites about this. And if you look at the West and certain places, and especially in European countries, this is like an institution. It's like okay. And this is something that really needs to be addressed because it's quite insidious. I mean, think about it. The civil rights, that was a movement. It was for enfranchisement of an entire people who had something, a racial category, which is genetic, not behavioral. They want to be merely included. They try to liken their movement to that, which is a movement of behavior, but specifically of sexual deviance. It's extraordinarily dangerous because where do they promote this? Now imagine, they have a flag. The flag represents what? A nation. Are they a nation? They're not a nation. Furthermore, this is a behavior. This is not a racial or genetic thing. This is something you choose to do. But here's the weird thing. It's a flag representing a sick nation that engages in sexual perversion, alternative lifestyles, they call it. And then where do they promote that? To the children.
Yeah.
You see LGBTQ flags, flying next to the American flag, which is an abomination. You see it in classrooms. They actually teach children this curriculum. And why do they have to do that? They're not producers. They're recruiters. You and I, we can produce kids. Forward our values and our DNA. They're recruiters.
Because they can't produce.
They can't have kids. Yeah, they got to recruit kids. They go adopt them, brainwash them. They go into the schools as teachers, brainwash them. And that's why a kid grows up and they think this stuff makes sense. Why do they? Because we believe all the stories we hear, especially when we're young. For example, when you were young, you learned 1 + 1 = 2. Could I ever convince you that's not true?
Yeah, you can't.
I cannot. You learn that as a definition. Similarly, if I taught you when you were a child, at the same time I taught you 1 + 1 = 2, I taught you that you can have 2 mommies. Or you could have a daddy who dresses as a woman. And, you know, like if I teach you those things early on, I implant it in your mind, it's going to be nearly impossible to get it out.
Yeah.
It really is.
Wow.
So that's the danger that's coming up. And we are truly unprepared because it's so insidious that the Christians have been compromised at an unimaginable level. You can see rainbow flags on the church. And in the good book, it says that this is an abomination, and it even specifically identifies the punishment. The problem is that we have passive Christians when really we need proactive Christians, meaning that you do have to do things here on earth to keep order. And as we see this, our children are at risk, and that's how I know that we are in truly a fallen state because I never thought people would let their kids be victim. Even in California, where you have the ability of the school, also known as the government, to mutilate your child's body without the consent of the parent.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Mutilation of the child's body. I was at Johns Hopkins. There's a gentleman who was formerly a MD, PhD, so a smart guy. He was mentally unwell. He went through with these surgeries that altered his body to make him appear as a female. And then eventually he tried to reverse it, which you actually cannot do in a true sense. And he transitioned, as they call it, euphemism, back to a man. And then he wrote a paper on it explaining, A, I was mentally unwell. Why did no one help me when I was destroying my body?
Right.
B, once I transitioned, I was not anatomically a woman. And so I experienced so much pain. He describes it in scientific detail because he's a scientist. He was like, I was growing pubic hairs inside of what was supposed to be my vagina, my fake vagina. He was like, I was having all kinds of constant infections and things because this is not the creation of God. This is not the creation of nature and biology. This is the creation of man, and man is imperfect. He cannot resculpt what God's hand is shaped.
Wow.
Then he says, and let me talk about not just myself, but let's talk about the data. Those persons who want to transition, which is to say self-mutilate, they have a higher suicide rate post-operation, meaning we give them what they want and they still take themselves out. So this is not hatred. This is actually the greatest form of love, which is to say, I love you enough to tell you you're not mentally well, and we're going to help you. We're not going to buy into your lunacy and help you walk down a further path of destruction. We're going to try to help you and correct it. The LGBTQ movement, if it was just for like, hey, treat us with respect as human beings. Don't discriminate against us. Don't commit violence against us. That we can deal with. Mm-hmm. But now they've gone so far beyond that, and they've said we want to dominate. We want to dictate to the society. We want to be in control, and we want to make everyone like us. We want to force everyone to be like us, not to accept us, but to be like us. And that's why they must be fought tooth and nail.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was amazing. Just to add little details to what you said, I was just thinking about a million things, but I was watching this couple who the biological woman transitioned into a man and then transitioned back into a woman, and talked about how it is suicide. It's another way Satan has, right? It's an act of suicide. If he cannot get you to kill yourself, he will get you to kill your identity.
Wow.
Isn't that deep?
It is.
Makes you cry. It makes you cry. And it's just so beautiful that you are, speaking out against all of these things. And I just thank you so much for doing so. Like, we need to hear people like you get on and fight for this stuff. So thank you so, so much.
I appreciate that. And I do want to encourage everyone in our space to not platform these folks, not act like it's okay when they're in your presence. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying to badger them, but I'm saying you don't have to make the young people watching think that you agree. And then thirdly, from language is very powerful. We cannot use the term trans woman. There's no such thing as a trans woman. There's only a woman and there's only a man. Yep. We have to use the reality, which is a male masquerading as a woman, or a drag queen, or a cross-dresser. The truth of the matter is what we have to use. The truth is a sharp sword, but when we start to use their language, then we propagate their discourse. And so there's no trans woman, there's no trans man. There's only a real man, me. There's only a real woman, you. There's nothing in between us. Yeah. So we have to remember to stick to our truths and what we actually believe, whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, an atheist, a rational person, whatever it is, you need to stick to the truth.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm going to work on that then.
Yeah, me too. Me too. They're trying to get us all.
Man, it's hard. It's thankfully, I always say too, I'm glad I haven't come across someone who wants me to say they, them pronouns, because I was like, how am I, even just dealing with people that come and say, what's your sign? I've had to learn to be like, I'm going to just let you know, I'm just not going to even entertain this, you know, and I had to get to that point of bravery and just courage in my beliefs. So, no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I enjoyed interviewing you, and I cannot wait to put this out, and I just appreciate your time so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So if you guys enjoyed today's session, you guys can click here to watch another episode. If you guys want to experience one-on-one coaching with me, where I really help people who do struggle with BPD, do struggle with femininity, and do have relationship issues, you guys can click the link in my bio on my YouTube or on my Instagram bio to my pillar link, and you guys will find one-on-one sessions. I also have ebooks such as How to Magnify the King in Your Husband and I'm the Prize Said Who, which are both self-reflection ebooks that have really saved and helped marriages. Click this episode right here to watch more.